Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here, and today I am back on some Outriders, and I want to show off my extremely overpowered weapon Devastator build. This build is insane. Now, I've seen a lot of people complaining about the Devastator, saying that he should be buffed because he's not as good as the other classes, and that it's really unfair that the other classes, they get these amazing weapon builds, which they do, and he doesn't. Well, let me tell you, he has an amazing weapon build. You have to set it up right, but it can be amazing. I have over 1,000,000 firepower with this build. You can do that on the Devastator. You cannot do that on anyone else. It is insane. Your actual raw damage with this build is out of this world. Now, what makes the other builds really good is because they can pierce through armor, and they can have like AoE effects. There's a lot of things that make the ammo builds really good, but in terms of just raw single target damage, you really can't beat this. I mean, it is just insane on how much damage you can do. And DPS wise, I can keep up with really optimized Pyromancer builds and Technomancer builds. I'm not saying that this build is better than those, because it's not, I don't think, but it can keep up, so that's the important bit here. Now, there are two versions of this build I'm going to be showing off. One is a single player version, which is this version. It uses Gravity Leap. That's a really good power for just zipping around the map. It's really nice for single player when enemies are hiding across the map from you. And also, it's really good on host. If you're going to play off host, I definitely kind of don't recommend Gravity Leap because you will get stuck. It's really bad and annoying when that happens. So just keep that in mind. And also, this build is a little bit more beefy. I sacrificed a little bit of damage to make it a little bit more beefy. That way, when I'm soloing, I can easily survive. I have really no problem staying alive with this version of the build. Now, my other version I'm going to be showing is just pure DPS. It is insane on how much damage I can get with that build, but it's really just meant for co-op. It's good off-host because it's not using Gravity Leap, and also the other really nice thing about it is that it just adds up like crazy, crazy damage. But as you can see, even with this version, I can still just melt these big guys. Of course, all of this is on CT15, and yeah, I mean, it is pretty insane. So right here, I'm going to actually show off like my number. So first of all, you're going to see that I have basically 900,000 firepower. If you actually look at my armor, I have 250,000 armor with this build. So yeah, it's pretty nuts. Now, this is my co-op version where it's all about the DPS. I'm using Boulder Dash with this, and I am about to melt this big dude. Now, one thing about this build is that it's really all about trying to maintain my golem armor. This is a golem armor build. And what's kind of interesting is that this is exactly what I predicted I was going to do. I actually made a video back in the demo talking about what my plan was for the Devastator. And to be honest with you, I kind of stuck with that plan, like almost 100%. I mean, it is kind of crazy that it kind of worked out that way. But basically, this build is all about trying to maintain my golem armor. And basically, as long as I can kill enemies, which I kill them very quickly, it is infinite. I can keep it going pretty much forever. And yeah, I mean, it basically makes me kind of invincible when I have golem armor. So that's really, really awesome. Now get ready for the big, big number. This is the DPS version, like I said. This is 1.1 million. Now, if I play with a Technomancer who can buff me, I can easily get that up to 1.4 million, maybe even 1.5 million. It is crazy. Alrighty, guys. Well, now I'm going to go ahead and break this build down for you, explain everything that you could ever want to know. And of course, I'm going to do it in great details. Alrighty, so now, let me go ahead and start with just kind of explaining the concept of the build and how it works. And of course, I'm going to talk about the set I'm using. So the idea of this build is that we use Golem. Golem makes us super tanky, so it's really nice. But we also can pretty much extend the duration and keep it forever. Especially when we're playing by ourselves. In co-op, it's a little bit harder because people might be taking a lot of kills. So that's something. But by yourself especially, you can almost keep it going forever. It's super, super good, okay? And the Golem is going to do a lot of great things for us. Besides making us tanky, it's also going to give us a lot of damage because we are using a set. This is the statue set. And this set is crazy good. Because what it does is that it gives you 100% firepower bonus. I misread that when the game first came out, and I was like, man, is that for me and my allies? That would be crazy, because my friends are actually doing the ammo builds for the Technomancer and for the Pyromancer. So it's like, man, this is going to be crazy. But guess what? No, it's just you. You know, the weapon life leech is for everybody. But the weapon life leech is also good. This build has 10%, so while Golem is active, we have 20%. That's more than enough to keep us alive. It's really nice. So the concept here is that we use Golem, we get crazy amounts of firepower, and we keep it going forever. Now, the thing is that 100% is misleading, because it really escalates like crazy, okay? So let me give you an example, right? 175, do the math on it. We're talking about 350, basically, is what it should be. If we look at the weapon damage bonus, it's 102%. Okay. Now, let me activate Golem, and it's going to escalate. And it's going to be crazy, right? 428. With 395, it just escalated like crazy. So that's kind of what's going on here. We are raising our firepower, and we're also increasing our weapon damage. And by doing that, man, we are getting tons and tons of extra firepower and tons of extra damage. So that's what's crazy. So now let me kind of explain that real quick. First of all, Golem, it makes us super tanky. We take 65% less damage. As long as we can heal ourselves, we're pretty much invincible with it. It has a 19.2 second duration on it, so that is extremely good. Now, my other skill I'm using for this setup, which by the way, the only difference between this setup and the other setup, one is for co-op, one is for single player. This setup uses Gravity Leap, the other one uses Boulder Dash, and I use a different mod. There's a Boulder Dash mod that's extremely good for damage. I use that with that setup. Gravity Leap is better, it's quicker, you can zip around the map, it's super nice. When you are playing co-op though, especially if you're not host, it is not so great, because you will get stuck a lot and you're just sitting there for 3 seconds. It's kind of bad. So if you're host, it's really nice, but if you are off host, it can be super annoying. Boulder Dash can also be a little bit annoying because you'll jump over cover a lot, and that can be annoying. And sometimes you'll jump over cover and then you'll fall down. You're like, I didn't want to do that. So, either way, it can be bad, but I definitely prefer Gravity Leap. Now, my other power is Reflect Bullets. I'm using this not because it's good, I'm using it because it's a protective skill. That's basically it. Now, the reason why that's important is because in our actual, class note tree, I'm using the top tree, the Vanquisher tree, that's all my weapon damage. We are using Alter Charge. Whenever you use a kinetic skill, you get 70% weapon damage for 10 seconds. So Boulder Dash or Gravity Leap, Endless Mass as well, but we're not using that. I mean, basically the idea, by the way, is you want to try to get your cooldown for either Gravity Leap or Boulder Dash as close to 10 seconds as possible. And I have a lot of cooldown. You can also go ahead and go for extra cooldown if you really need it. With your class notes, by the way, you have 2 extra points you can play with. I went for armor piercing. I just wanted more armor piercing. But if you wanted to go for shotgun damage, for example, you could. If you wanted to go for more cooldown, you could. If you wanted to actually go for this Into the Fray, this is not bad. You take 15% less damage after using your kinetic skill. So that's pretty nice, honestly. So basically you have options here. But the other thing that's really important is Champion. What this does is that when we activate a protective skill, we get 45% weapon damage for 10 seconds. Now, the thing is, the idea of the build is that we use Golem Armor, and then we try to make it infinite. So we only really need to use it once. So this would be kind of pointless and useless if we can actually play the build right, because Golem Armor is not going to go down. So basically the way that you do it is you use Golem Armor, and then you charge in, and you combine these two together, it's 115% damage for 10 seconds. Then your Gravity Leap will recharge. Your Golem Armor should still be active because you're killing a bunch of enemies. When you do your kinetic skill, then you can go ahead and use reflect bullets. And all you gotta do is you activate it and deactivate it right away. That way, now you're getting both the buffs. And every time you get your cooldowns, basically, you're just doing the same thing. Reflect bullets, actually the cooldown is 13.8. That's really not that different from Gravity Leap. And in fact, it's actually exactly the same as Boulder Dash. So, that's actually pretty good. Now that you have the idea of like how the build is played, now I need to kind of like break it down and talk about like what's really important here. Now, something I have to bring up came from the demo, for me at least. I got 2 of these in the demo. There's a shotgun, it's called Golem's Limb. It has this amazing mod. You definitely want the mod if possible. It's not going to break the build. It's not like, oh, you can't do the build now. You can still do the build, but trying to get your golem to be infinite will be a lot harder if you do not have the Golem Rising mod. That's the big downside, by the way. There is another thing you can use, though, and that is actually this, which is called Golem of Death. Whenever you get a kill, it extends the duration by 2 seconds. So that is something you can do. And this is actually pretty good, especially with AoE effects, with like crowd control. If you can kill like a lot of enemies, you can just like completely refill it. It's not bad, but this is what really makes it special, Golem Rising. Now, essentially, this will stack with this. Now, I don't know if it's 5 seconds. I want to say it's not. I think it's like 4 seconds. But I'll tell you one thing. It's definitely better than just relying on Golem of Death. I've tried that. I'm like, you know what? Let me experiment. I'm going to do a run where I'm just going to have Golem of Death. And then I've done it as well where I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do Golem Rising. That's it. Can't do it. But when I combine them together, it's super easy to maintain my Golem armor like the entire time. Now, by the way, if you have played the demo or if you played with multiple classes, if you've gotten the Golem's Limb to drop on anybody, and even if you've broken it down and you have the mod on like a Trickster, for example, what you can do, and this works with armor too, by the way, is you can go ahead and take like a blue or a purple, and you can go ahead and mod it with that mod. Since you have the mod unlocked, just mod anything with it. Put it in your stash and then pull it out on like your Devastator, for example. That is something you can do to transfer the mod. I thought like, oh man, it's going to be annoying getting legendaries multiple times. You don't actually have to. You just need it once and you can transfer it over, and that's really, really nice. But the thing is that Golem Rising, it's kind of weird on how it works, because one of the ways that it works is that if you get a kill and you don't have your Golem armor active, right? So let's say it's on cooldown. If you get a kill, you get the Golem armor effect. So basically you take 65% less damage, and it's for 3 seconds. But the thing is that if your actual skill is active, your Golem armor, when you get a kill, it's going to basically just extend the duration by 3 seconds. So that's the difference. And while it's active, all of the benefits that you would get you're going to still get them, okay? Because it's counting the real skill. So it's doubling your firepower, for example. And also, Golem just does a lot of cool stuff. Now, talking about my weapon, since I'm on it, I'm using the Ambervolt. I never thought in a million years this was going to be my main gun. Because in the demo, I had it, I liked it, but I didn't love it. The mod was way better, though. It was 150% for 30 seconds. That is crazy. And right now, just the 75% for 20 seconds is extremely overpowered. It's super good because remember, we're stacking so much damage. We have tons of damage. That's how I'm getting 1,000,000 damage, or at least 1,000,000 firepower, is I'm stacking damage. So Killing Spree is super nice for that. And I also like the fact that this gun comes with armor piercing, because I want as much armor piercing as possible. And I think, honestly, like that's really the big thing about the ammo builds. Those ammo builds, they have like armor piercing basically like 100%. So because of that, they do a ton of damage. Like, that's just something like that's amazing about those ammo builds. So I want to have as much armor piercing as well. Now my secondary gun I have on right now is Death Shield. The main mod here, Fortress, is extremely good. Honestly, sometimes I play with it and I go ahead and I put on Golem Rising it's pretty good, you know, especially if I go down like the shotgun like tree, so I get like extra shotgun damage. I like it a lot. But I also just like to have a gun that's good for like crowd control. So an example is actually this. Like this is funeral power, and basically what I like to do with this is I bust it out. Shadow Comet is extremely good, by the way. If you can get this gun, try out Shadow Comet. It just works great. It's better than like Ultimate Storm Whip, that's for sure. Because it basically does about the same damage, but it's every 3 seconds. But the difference is that it's got actually radius to it. And man, it really does a lot of extra damage for you. But I like to use this with bone shrapnel. That way, every time I get a kill, basically they explode, they bleed. It just does nice crowd control. So that's like a shotgun I like for that. And, you know, I do have Shadow Comet on this. This is kind of like a boss weapon, so I'll equip this. It's an assault weapon. And basically, if I'm fighting a boss, and the reason why it's important is because with something like the Emerald, I rely on the buffs. You know, I have stacks of things. 20 seconds. Once the 20 seconds are up, this gun's going to get a lot weaker. So if I have like a boss killing gun, I can pull it out and actually do some good damage. So the Juggler is nice for that. And same with the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird is nice because it comes with Ultimate Storm Whip. And you can throw on anything else. I have Shadow Comet on it. I really think it's good. Now, there are other shotguns that would be great for this build. One shotgun that would be awesome would be the Golem's Limb. I wish I would have kept one. I destroyed them all. I would have leveled it up all the way. But the Golem's Limb would be good because it's a pump shotgun. It comes with Golem Rising already on it. And honestly, you know what I would do? I'd probably put Killing Spree on it just to try that out. 75% more damage on a pump shotgun. It could be pretty crazy. Another amazing shotgun I would love to get, especially for crowd control, is a shotgun called the High Roller. That makes it so that anytime you get a kill, for 5 seconds you are guaranteed to get crits. So that sounds amazing, right? It's going to do a ton of damage. Well, guess what? This pistol here, Lucky, I really want to combine the High Roller shotgun with this. I want to put that pinball in there, because then every critical shot will ricochet to 4 enemies within 5 meters. And the weapon damage is double of the base. And the pump shotguns have insane base damage. So this will be amazing crowd control. It should be good on this build. And honestly, this will be amazing on the Trickster. So if you can actually get that combo going, try that on the Trickster. I can imagine that would be insane. So basically, that's my weapons. That's what I like. The Emerald is definitely my absolute main weapon. It just does crazy DPS, 750 RPM. It's great, okay? Now, let me talk about the mods on my armor and a couple things you can do, because some of these mods you might not have. An example would be the tier 3 mods like Sharp Eye. It comes on a legendary helmet. You might not have that. Same with the gloves, right? Stare into the barrel. Awesome. Tier 3, it comes on a helmet. You might not have it. So let's say, hypothetically, you don't have either. Well, there's something really cool you can do to make up for that, okay? And this is something that you can do with this build, because this build utilizes bleeding. And the way that we use bleeding is actually from the Golem armor. And it's coming from this perk on these boots, which, by the way, you should totally buy these boots before they're gone. I don't know when the guy's going to reset, but he might eventually. Buy these boots, because they come with this, bleeding impulse, and it's really good for this build. But basically, what that's going to do is that it's going to make all the enemies bleed around you within 10 meters. It happens every 2 seconds. It's extremely good, okay? And I actually have Tainted Blood on this. Now, honestly, if you don't have that, there is a tier 2 mod, which is just 15% extra damage versus bleeding enemies, but that's pretty good. So if you want to use that, you could. But basically, we want to bleed the enemies because we are using Vampiric Mag. That's super, super important. That's how we're getting our ammo back, is anytime we're killing the enemies, we are getting ammo back. And we're bleeding everything around us, so it's really not a problem. Now that you have that idea, here is something you can do. Okay, now first of all, I have the statue's gloves. I'm not using them because, unfortunately, the mods just aren't that good. one of the mods is for Trimmer, but I actually went ahead and threw that on there, the Cycle. It's a tier 2 mod, and it's actually really good with this build because it can give you a lot of extra damage, especially if you're missing something like these tier 3 ones, like Sharp Eye or Stare into the Barrel. You can actually just go ahead and use the Cycle, which it gives you weapon damage based off your health regen, okay? Now here's the deal, right? There is a really awesome mod you can use. It is a tier 2 mod. It's called Blood Potion. And essentially what that does is that it's going to give you health regen. Whenever you shoot an enemy that is bleeding, it's got to be in close range, which this entire build is close range, so there you go. And you have to get a crit. So there's like multiple steps here, but basically, if you can do it, and it shouldn't be too hard with this, you get health regen. And it's the same value as the Trimmer from those gauntlets, okay? It's for 5 seconds. So I can actually show you how much damage it is because it's kind of crazy. So let me go ahead and put Trimmer on real quick. And I'm going to put the gauntlets on because when I activate Trimmer, I'm going to get the same health regen. It's 1290, okay? So let me go ahead and take that off, put Trimmer on, and I'm also going to double my damage because it's Trimmer and it's a part of the set. So keep that in mind. But if I use it and I look at the gauntlets, I can see I get 55% weapon damage. 55. That's a lot. And it's super good. So if you want to use that combo, go for it. I've done a lot of testing and experimenting, and the combo I have going right now is better. But if I didn't have like these tier 3 mods, hell yeah, I would be using the Cycle. It's super good. And also, guys, you know, if you're a Technomancer, I believe there's a mod for the healing. Now, you would have to use the healing. But I think there's a mod that gives everyone health regen. So if you're a Technomancer and you want to take advantage of this, the Cycle, go for it. It could be pretty good, okay? So that is an alternative for you guys if you want to go ahead and use that. And let me go ahead and look here. But yeah, Stare into the Barrel. If you actually can get this, it comes from a legendary helmet. It's super good. And by the way, the attributes you're looking for, like the ideal is bonus firepower, close range damage, and cooldown reduction. You want to try to get as much cooldown reduction as possible. Every piece I have has cooldown reduction on it. The set comes with it. That's good. The big downside is, and I do recommend the helmet, the legs, and the boots. Because the chest piece, I don't have the chest piece, so I can't really say how good the chest piece is. I know the mod on the chest piece is really nice, I think, for your allies, but it's like a Trimmer mod. So if you don't want to use Trimmer, it's not going to be good. And the gauntlets, basically, the tier 3 mod is like when you melee enemies, like you inflict vulnerable on them, so it's pretty bad. And then the second mod is Trimmer, so if you're not using Trimmer, it's not very good. So this is what you want. You want to go ahead and get the helm, the legs, and the boots. The boots, the mod is like a ricochet thing. It's okay, but you can totally replace the mod in there. When it comes to the legs, the second mod is like, it's something to do with Trimmer. It's like healing with Trimmer. So if you're not using Trimmer, it's not very good. But if you want to switch that one out, you can. And actually, Golem Squad is really nice because it gives you 20% extra duration for your Golem, which is good. That's how I have like my Golem almost 20 seconds. And it's kind of confusing, but the way that the second perk works is that 75% of your duration will be given to your allies. So an example is when I play with my friends, if I use Golem, they get Golem armor for 15 seconds. That can come in clutch, by the way, especially on really hard parts where like I'll lose my Golem and then I get it back and we're all like struggling because like it's really hard. If I pop it, I can tell everyone like, hey, I just gave you Golem. And they know like, okay, I should be safe now because I have Golem armor for 15 seconds. It really can come in clutch. I have Bloodlust on this. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I don't like the wording of it. I don't really understand it because it says it stacks up to 3 times and deteriorates every 10 seconds. I don't know why it's worded like that. It's kind of strange because like, for example, Sharp Eye, it says the same thing. It stacks up to 3 times. but it doesn't say anything about deteriorating. So it's like, I don't know like what that means exactly. It's kind of confusing. But basically, yeah, I'm just stacking like tons and tons of firepower, so Bloodlust is extremely good. And yeah, for this setup, I'm using mitigation from death because of the armor. As you can see when I showed it, you can get 250,000 armor, no problem. Now the thing about it is when you have golem armor and you are, doing everything right and you're extending the duration, you're pretty much invincible. Like you don't have to worry about dying. But if it does go down, then you can definitely die, especially in solo. So I definitely like having that for when I'm soloing because I know that pretty much when my golem armor, if it goes down, I should be able to live because I can easily get like a lot of armor and it's good. Vampiric Mag, it's just too good. You got to use that. And yeah, that's basically it for all the mods on basically my armor. Now, let me go ahead and just go over the class notes like the rest of them real quick. One of the important ones is magazine. When it comes to this setup, if you're reloading your gun, okay, you're going to be running out of golem. So you don't want to have to reload. The higher your magazine, the better, because you want the vampiric mag to kick in with the bleeding and all that and just not have to reload. So definitely that's really nice. Also, Bounty Hunter is good. You get the extra damage versus elites. You take less damage from elites. You get weapon life leech. This is a priority. Definitely get it, okay? 10% total. With the golem armor active, it's 20%. It's super nice. Get all the weapon damage you can, the close range damage. Remember, you have 2 points you can play with. I put them into armor piercing. If you want cooldown, you can. If you want shotgun and assault, you can. If you have like no good assault, but you have really good shotguns, you can go ahead and just go for shotguns, get rid of the assault, and go for other stuff if you want. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it when it comes to the tree. And skill-wise, let me just go ahead. This is going to be so easy because I have Boulder Dash on right now. So the co-op build, the real difference is there is a legendary armor for Boulder Dash. And I think it's the legs, maybe? I believe it's the legs. But the legs will come with a mod that is really insane. It's super, super good for this build. And let me go ahead and switch that out right now. So what I'll do for my co-op, because see, here's the thing. If I die in co-op, I don't care. Because I can self-revive once. My allies can pick me up. Whatever. And normally, if I'm going to die, I might die once a match. At best. But the point is that it's not a big deal. If you die in solo, you fail. So you don't want that, right? But this mod is crazy because what it does is that it will give you, for every enemy that you damage with Boulder Dash, you get weapon damage of 15% for 10 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times. 75% weapon damage. Now, thing about that, right? That's so crazy. Is that Boulder Dash is kind of weird. Like when you use it, you can like run past like a ton of enemies and you feel like you didn't hit a single one. Guess what? For some reason, it just works really well and it will hit all of them. Like the radius of Boulder Dash is insane. Like when you just slightly run past the enemies, it counts. So it's very easy to get the 5 stacks of this. And in co-op, remember, you have problems with lag. Lag can be a problem with Gravity Leap. So Gravity Leap is really good normally, but in co-op, you can do it and then like it takes 3 seconds to stand up. It's really bad. Boulder Dash, you don't have to worry about that, This is like, optimized build. There's alternatives that you can do. There's things you can kind of play around with to make it work. But that's super optional. Like, if you want the most damage possible, this Boulder Dash mod is just amazing. But, I mean, that's basically it when it comes to the build, guys. I mean, it's super consistent. It's super good. You're super tanky. You do insane damage. I mean, I can keep up with, like, my friends who are a Pyromancer and a Technomancer. Like, I can absolutely keep up with them with DPS and stuff with this build. It is nuts, okay? I would really appreciate it, guys, if you could like this video for me. And also, like, be sure to subscribe if you haven't. It really does help me out a lot, and I do appreciate it. And if you do subscribe, make sure to click the bell. It keeps you notified, so if you want to see future videos, definitely click the bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace.